Hello, and welcome to Discovering True Health, your weekly deep dive into health and wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started with today's show, please hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and you'll stay up to date on all our upcoming shows. You can also check out additional information on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. All those links are below. Now, research shows that even one glass of wine will actually lower our dopamine levels and our mood after the initial buzz wears off. It also lowers other happiness neurotransmitters and pumps out stress hormones and will negatively affect our REM sleep. So today on Discovering True Health, we are going to be learning more about the science behind how alcohol affects our bodies and brains and why going alcohol-free can help us achieve our biggest dreams and bring us more happiness and confidence. We'll also be covering healthy coping mechanisms that help us deal with stress that give us more pleasure than a drink can give, and how to navigate our social life confidently without having a drink in hand. My guest today is Karolina Rzadkowolska, a certified alcohol-free transformation-based life coach and bestselling author of the book Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You. Karolina is featured on over 40 articles, including Huffington Post, Elite Daily, and Katie Couric, and has coached thousands of clients through her online program. And she's also a fellow podcaster and host of Euphoric, the podcast. And she's very passionate about helping her clients discover a vision that's so much bigger than a beverage. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. What a warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation and learn all about this topic. Now, I'd love to start with hearing about your journey and story. How did alcohol affect your life? What was the catalyst that caused you to break from it, that started you down the path to where you are today, being alcohol-free and doing what you're doing? And what were the effects you experienced after quitting alcohol?
Great questions. My journey really was a health journey. And something that I think drives me nuts and kept me really stuck for so long is that alcohol is not really considered a part of our health journey. We don't really evaluate it about how well it makes us feel or how happy it makes us feel. We evaluate it based on whether or not it's a problem. And so we have this kind of black and white dualistic thinking about it. Alcohol is completely fine and normal and should be part of my life unless I'm exhibiting these horrible symptoms. And the horrible symptoms relate to all the stereotypes we've ever heard about a problem drinker, usually with a paper bag sitting under a bridge somewhere, right? So not me. And so that kind of dualistic thinking really kept me stuck for a long time. And basically, I'll tell you, Christy, that, I definitely drank way too much when I was in grad school and college. That's kind of where I learned to drink. I was really carefree about it. And it's just, I was just kind of doing what everyone else was doing in those years. But as I got older, in my mid and to late 20s, I really started going on a health journey. I really started to eat better, work out more, incorporate mindfulness into my life. And so what ended up happening is I, Monday through Thursday, had the healthiest routine. I would work out, I would go to yoga class, I would meditate, I would drink my green juice. And then every weekend, like clockwork, alcohol was there for the socializing, the game night, sushi night, dinner party, wedding, whatever, or just at home with some Netflix and wine. And every single Monday morning, I woke up feeling horrible. Not only did I physically feel horrible, but emotionally, I also felt like really low, really like I made so much progress every week. And then I woke up on Monday 5 steps backwards, right, from where I wanted to be. And just so stuck and so confused about what to do because I wanted to take a break. I didn't want to keep experiencing these feelings, but I always thought that if I don't drink alcohol, I'd have to label myself an alcoholic and go to meetings, and I just didn't want anything to do with that. So I continued this pattern for years, even though it wasn't making me happy. And finally, I heard about Dry January. And to me, it was like the click in the brain that I needed because I was like, oh, I can just take a break from alcohol and I don't have to explain it to people. I like this. So I was so fed up with the roller coaster merry-go-round behavior I was doing for so many years that Dry January was a welcome excuse to not drink. And I fell in love. I fell in love not only with how much better my sleep was, how much more energetic I was every day, how my mood elevated, but also this sense of pride and self-love I felt every single morning, knowing that my intentions were abided by and that I could really trust myself to abide by them. February comes around and I like not drinking, but I still don't believe that it's a possibility for me. I have this story in my brain that says normal adults drink alcohol. Therefore, if you want to be a normal adult, you must drink. I drink a few times that February, and it wasn't even that much drinking. It was done socially, and I hated it. I noticed that even a drink or two would leave me feeling kind of irritated, frustrated, exhausted. I noticed even picking fights with my husband. I wouldn't sleep very well that night, and I woke up the next day feeling pretty blah. So with the contrast, I was really able to really pick and notice that I didn't enjoy drinking. It wasn't doing the things I thought it was doing. So I decided to take another break at that point in February, which basically I've been alcohol free ever since. Wow. And the things that evolved in my life since that point, my health improved drastically. I feel better than I've ever felt before. My mindset, my healing of the things I didn't like about myself, my ability to feel greater self-esteem and self-trust and self-love have grown. But lastly, and most importantly, it's given me the confidence to go after things I never dared to think were possible for me, including writing this book, launching this business, and having the career I have today. So it's just this huge catapult, night and day difference of a life. And it all started with just this questioning and an experiment to try not drinking for a little bit.
What a wise, incredible, notion, because it's so ingrained in our society. And like you're saying, if you don't drink, it's something you have to explain to people. Why aren't you drinking? Do you have a problem? Did you quit? Are you sober? So yeah, and it's just this thing that's kind of deeply ingrained that, we feel like we do have to, or to be part of everything. To do it. So that's an incredible mindset shift, I think, that you just talked about. Like, we don't have to, be alcoholics to quit alcohol. We can look at it from a health perspective. On a not major problem. I have a major problem. It can be, no, this isn't good for my health. What would you say were some of the most difficult things about quitting drinking for you, if there were any?
I have to say that the times before I really let myself take a break from alcohol, like when I was stuck in that on and off, don't drink during the week, drink on the weekend, that was really the hardest time because I was kind of feeling a little bit of what life felt like with alcohol every week, 4 days, 5 days without alcohol. And then I kind of bulldozed over that and never really got to feel the good parts. And that was when I was telling myself the most limiting stories of like, well, you got a wedding this weekend, you have to drink. You have this dinner party, you have this sushi dinner, it was just this expectation I placed on myself as if I didn't even have permission to choose differently. And I love how you say, that choosing to take a break or go alcohol free can really be a health decision. Because when you think about it, what qualifies someone to go vegetarian, for example? Do they have to check off that they eat a steak every night and it's too much meat in their life? And only at that point can they be a vegetarian? Absolutely not, right? That's ridiculous. There's a zillion reasons under the sun why someone could choose to eliminate meat out of their lifestyle. It doesn't even have to be health related, right? It could be about animal welfare, for example. Just as there are a million reasons why someone could choose to take a look and reevaluate the role of alcohol in their life, right? You could want to be a better parent, a better role model. You could want to be more present in your relationships. You could want to be healthier. You could want to really repair your self-love for yourself. I mean, there's so many different things. So I would say the hardest for me, I don't know if it was really socially, it was more of the fear of the social element. So like when I actually did it, it was like ripping off the Band-Aid and everything was fine and great. But I'm an introvert and I grew up pretty shy when I was growing up. So when I started drinking as a teenager and young adult, alcohol became this like mystical, magical potion to me. If I just drink this beverage, I'll turn into a different person. I'll become more interesting and talkative and sociable. And I really used it as this crutch for so many years. I really thought of myself as a more gregarious, popular person when I was able to use this drink. So I had this belief that alcohol made me more confident. But essentially, it was telling my subconscious, hey, you're not good enough. You have nothing interesting to say. Nobody wants to talk to you. You don't even know how to speak correctly. You're awkward. Have this drink, though, and then you'll be the person you want to be. And, that was like kind of outsourcing your confidence to something outside of you instead of actually developing it within. At the same time, I would actually embarrass myself when I drank, and I would be worried, like, do I have wine stains on my teeth, or did I say something out of character? And the next day it would just be like, it wasn't 100% me driving that car yesterday, or, I don't mean driving the car. I didn't drink and drive, but in the control seat of my life, it wasn't exactly me. And I feel out of alignment and disingenuous with that. And that would cause shame and regret and all those kinds of feelings. So really, essentially, that belief I had that alcohol made me more confident was BS. It was deteriorating my confidence and my self-esteem. But I had to put it to the test when I went alcohol-free. And, my first few social occasions without the drink were like a skill I'd never practiced. It was like a muscle that hadn't ever been worked out before. But I recognized that it's okay. I can lean into this. I can practice this. This is something to be practiced. And so I started leaning in more and practicing it more. And I started to get more confident in my skin. I started to feel more comfortable. I would order mocktails or have some kind of alcohol-free beverage on hand. And I just learned that this isn't that scary and that I really can rely on the confidence I've built within myself. Now, something like that, doesn't even give me, a moment's pause to think that, it's going to be so awkward socially or whatever. And I also think that those are normal human emotions, like little kids, when they first meet each other, are often a little shy and might kind of hide behind their parents' legs. But like 30 minutes later, you can't tear them apart. So working through those fears made me a stronger and better person. But I have to say that it was probably the biggest challenge, both before I went alcohol free, because it was the biggest excuse, but I have to drink socially. What will people think? And then also a cool challenge to work through and get stronger because of.
Right. And then, like you said, working those skills. And I find too that a lot of times not drinking, because I'm not a big drinker, it makes other people uncomfortable. And because they're drinking, and I always feel like saying, no, I swear I'm a lot more fun sober. I'm a lot more fun because if I drink a glass of wine, I'll just get really tired. But I think, what you were saying before, you had this realization of, this awareness of what alcohol was, doing and affecting you. I think that's the place to start, is kind of bringing awareness to that, because maybe a lot of people don't realize, like, oh, I'm feeling this way because of maybe the couple drinks I'm having the day prior. Maybe they're not linking those two. So let's kind of get into the science behind it. So can you kind of talk us through how alcohol physiologically affects our bodies and brains, and what are kind of the effects to look out for?
Absolutely. And I love to tell my clients that alcohol is not a 20-minute buzz. It is a 48-hour experience. And just like you said, oftentimes we're really good at not recognizing that the exhaustion and the anxiety and the grossness we feel the next day is linked to alcohol, right? The emotional kind of low we might feel is actually linked to alcohol. No one's crazy for feeling, let me put it another way. I don't think anyone on this planet drinks alcohol and wakes up the next day saying, I feel like $1,000,000, right? Like, we are all human and we all physiologically respond to alcohol in similar ways. And that is, it is a toxin that the body has to detox. It changes our neurochemistry and it makes us feel worse the next day. That's just what it does. But I think it's really fascinating to understand what's going on as it affects our body. So alcohol is a depressant. And as a depressant, it starts to slow down our central nervous system and our brain cells. And the way that neuroscientists have explained this to me is that slowing down is almost kind of the step before a brain cell dies, like before it is getting killed, it's actually just, it's slowly destroying those brain cells. And that can often be what that buzz actually is. That buzz is the feeling of those brain cells getting really, really slowed down, which actually doesn't sound very good, does it? But our body is this miraculous system, and that when we have a depressant like that in our system, there's a counteractive process in our body that initiates, and that's to release stimulants so that the depressing factor doesn't just, kill us. We have stimulants to fight it. So our body will send off cortisol, adrenaline, and dynorphin in response to alcohol. Now, we've all heard of cortisol and adrenaline. There's these feelings of anxiety and stress mixed with those words, but dynorphin is a little less known. And basically, the way I think of it is endorphins, the opposite of those, right? It's the exact opposite. And dynorphin makes us feel really low, really kind of sad, regretful, and ashamed about ourselves. And so they've actually studied and found that people who commit suicide often have a higher level of dynorphin in their brain. And so what's fascinating to me is those Monday morning blues, essentially, I had every Monday morning. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that I was just not able to do it right, that, something emotionally must be off. Absolutely not. That was the exact scientific effect of alcohol. And so what happens is these stress hormones are released as soon as right away, but we don't really feel them because the numbing effect of alcohol kicks in first. And so if you've ever had like one drink and then don't drink after that, an hour or two later, like you mentioned, you might feel more tired. You might even feel a little wired, a little cranky, a little frustrated, just a little off. That's those stress hormones in the body. But most people don't just drink the one and carry on with their day. They continue drinking that evening. So you won't feel it until later. And so oftentimes if someone drinks all evening, they'll wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. when those stress hormones are surging through their body. And then it's really hard to fall back asleep. Mm-hmm. And if not, then even if you sleep through the night, you'll often feel more anxiety the next day. And so again, like you were mentioning, a lot of people don't even recognize that the anxiety they feel the next day is really, really tied to the alcohol. Now, alcohol as a substance, ethanol, scientifically, our body can detox it. It depends on how old you are. So younger people can do it a little faster. Once you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it takes way longer, anywhere from between like 48, 72 hours or so. But those stress hormones stay in our bodies much longer, much, much longer, anywhere up to 2 weeks. So often what happens is a drinker will have some drinks. Then the next few days will feel kind of blah, they're kind of lower on that scale of mood. And then they'll drink again and feel good again. But basically what happens is they're drinking the feelings away that alcohol produced in the first place, right? So I drink every weekend, almost without fail. I was always doing that cycle. I never even knew what I naturally felt like. And so when I take a break from alcohol, my brain rebalances. And so not only do those stress hormones have a chance to actually completely kind of go away, at least the ones that are being induced by alcohol, not to say all stress goes away. At the same time, my response to dopamine also rebalances, as does my GABA and serotonin levels. So alcohol also creates a surge of dopamine in our brain when we drink it, much like cocaine and heroin do, right? It's not like a good thing in this case, but that surge is really artificial and high spike. And so then it crashes afterwards. And then our dopamine levels will be very low afterwards. Because of this high spikes of dopamine, the brain learns that like, this is too much dopamine. It will take those receptors that are meant to catch the dopamine molecules and it will retract them. And so over time, someone who drinks regularly actually has a less ability to feel dopamine naturally. Wow. So something like having a walk in the woods or playing with a child or having a belly laugh, they don't register in the brain as that happiness moment that we would think it would be. And the GABA and the serotonin also goes down with regular drinking. So by the time I'm 4 weeks or so without alcohol, the stress hormones are totally clear. My dopamine levels go back up to, a more normal place. My GABA and serotonin go up. All of a sudden, I'm seeing the world through new eyes. Like I am literally euphoric. I'm excited to have these belly laughs, to be one with nature, to just go on walks and feel, presence with something bigger than me. I'm excited to try new things that I've never tried before. I just have a new lease on life. And so that's a really, really exciting part of it that I think is often missed. We often think that if I were to not drink or take a break or quit forever, I would be deprived, I would be sacrificing something. But I think essentially, if as an adult, one hasn't ever tried a break, an extended break from alcohol, that's what they're really missing out on, to feel how we naturally feel. And if anyone is dealing with anxiety or depression, and alcohol's in the mix, like, I'm not saying like 100%, oh, your depression will go away, your anxiety will go away. No, obviously these things are way more complicated than that. But it's a really good experiment to see how much better you would feel if you first tried removing alcohol, because it is not just my experience that this comes from. It is from literally thousands and thousands of people who've gone on this journey and report such an elevation in their mood. And stress is still there, but also this ability to handle it, just this resilience to know I can feel stressed, but I have these tools and these processes to work through. It's not going to be the end of me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's pretty profound. I've heard and read some about the effects of alcohol, but I didn't know the extent of it. And for our chemicals to be messed with that level and the dopamine receptors, I mean, that's a big deal. It's kind of the perfectly concocted drug to just keep us going, it sounds like. And from your experience in working with clients, what are some of the main reasons you've seen why people drink? And also, how do some of these limiting beliefs come into play when trying to cut it out?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the women I work with, they are women, right? So we not only have oftentimes kids, but careers too. It's like the modern woman does it all. Like, we are stressed out. Have a zillion spinning plates in our hands at any one time. And so alcohol functions as a tool to relax us. And that's probably one of the most number one reasons people drink, right? Outside of the social realm, we drink because we think alcohol relaxes us. But after everything I just shared, like, physiologically, it is pumping out more stress and anxiety in your body. And if you even just reflect on any experience that alcohol was used in a moment to relax, the next day, the stress is compounded, like the next day, not only did nothing that you were stressed about get handled, but now you have a headache. Right. And now you feel low and glum about yourself. So it really essentially isn't working. And I think that there's something really beautiful about taking care of yourself and having rituals in your life. And in a way, alcohol functions as a ritual. You go to work, you have your stressful day, you deal with all these things. And then it's 7 p.m. and it's like, okay, it's time to turn all that off. It's time to take a little me time. And it's time to sit down and have this glass of wine. Now, I think the ritual itself is actually beautiful, right? Because it's a decompression ritual to say, we're turning the rest of the world off. It's time to slow down. But the substance in the glass itself isn't helping you do that. Right. And now it's really interesting to learn. There was this study they once conducted on people who were sitting in a bar or restaurant, and they put these little brain nodes onto their brains right here, and they were measuring their brain waves. So everyone just got off work. Everyone's pretty stressed out, and the brain waves were pretty chaotic, pretty like spiky, up and down. And then everybody orders a drink. And all of a sudden, the brain waves start to mellow out, start to smooth out. Now, here's the kicker. Nobody actually drank the drink yet. They just ordered it. Right? So the brain relaxed immediately at the anticipation of the reward, at the anticipation of the ritual to slow down. So what that tells me is that literally there's anything we will do habitually to demarcate it's time to slow down will give our brain that relaxed state. And what I tell my clients is make it easy on yourself. Just replace the drink in your cup, like it's like a placebo effect, but it really works. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of alcohol-free beverages, beers, alcohol-free wines, alcohol-free spirits, alcohol-free mocktails that have like adaptogens and nootropics in them these days, all the different health elixirs you can find in all the health food stores, coconut waters. I mean, we are at no, dearth of just incredible options that happen to not have ethanol in them. There's so many experimentation people can have around this area. I always say, find a drink you love and just replace the habit. And that is often the easiest transition someone can make, and find that, wow, I still got the ritual. I still got the time to say it's time to relax and focus on you. But then I didn't want more drinks that then ruined my night or ruined my sleep or came with all those stress hormones the next day. And other rituals obviously function really, really well as well. Anywhere from yin yoga, taking a bath, having a walk, watching the sunset is one of my favorites because it connects me to this something bigger than me. It's like the universe just painted this magical miracle in the sky, and all of those little to-dos, then my brain kind of quiet for a moment. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible, right? So I think the rituals are an important piece to figure out when it comes to switching our body over from that sympathetic nervous system that's so stressed out to our parasympathetic nervous system. But alcohol is just not working to do that, So we have to get a little creative and debunk the idea that it is. So once you kind of peel back the layers and learn the neuroscience behind how alcohol affects the brain, you're going to be like, oh, it's just not doing what I thought it was doing. And what that does is it slowly removes the desire for alcohol. Now, wanting to relax with alcohol is not the only reason we use alcohol or the only reason we like to drink. Anyone can have up to 15 to 20 reasons why they like to drink. So that's just one example of the work you would do around that one reason, which is a pretty big one. But these fall into all different reasons, which is what my book helps and what my programs and coaching helps do, is really just determine how can we remove your subconscious desire from alcohol and debunk all these reasons and beliefs. So literally at the end of the day, it's not you can't drink or I don't get to drink. It's like, I don't really want to drink. Alcohol is not appealing to me, which I'm sure you kind of have that just because naturally you've never really enjoyed it. It's not that appealing.
Right. Thank you for that. Was fascinating, the study, because knowledge is power. So when you learn something like that, you're like, oh, it's not the actual thing that's creating the relaxation around it. So learning these specific things that you're teaching in your work and in your book, these are powerful tools and mindset shifts to really help people realize, like, what you're doing isn't actually what's relaxing you. Now, you also talk about in your work how going alcohol-free can help us achieve our biggest dreams, increase our happiness and confidence. And how does going alcohol-free help us in these ways? And what can one expect to experience kind of initially once they break from alcohol? Can you break down kind of the process that they may feel?
Yeah, for sure. I've often recognized that it doesn't matter whether you drink one drink a week or 10 drinks a day. Oftentimes, when we are looking into our relationship with alcohol, there's more than just the amount we drink. There's how much space it takes up in our brain. So a healthy woman, for example, will probably want to be healthy in all regards and really look at alcohol in the same way. So there's rules, right? We'll drink, but just on Friday night. And on Friday night, you can have 1 glass. Okay, but on Saturday night, there's that wedding. So maybe you can have 3. Oh no, I had 5. Oh my gosh, I hate myself. Okay, so this week we're going to take a break. But then on Saturday, do you hear how crazy I sound right now? It's this mental gymnastics I'm going through. And that was like the predominant chatter of my brain before. It was debating, should I, shouldn't I? It was chastising myself, recriminating myself. Committing to new rules, it just took up so much brain space. And I think that when you change your relationship with alcohol, not only can you get freedom from all those beliefs that tell you need it, you also start defeating this like Achilles heel, this thing that took up so much space in your brain. And every alcohol-free day that goes by, not only are you getting freedom from the chatter and the monkey brain and all of that, you're also really surpassing your limits of what you ever thought was possible for you. So I remember I was like 30 days alcohol free. I was like, holy hell, right? This is incredible. And then I went 50 days and I was like, I don't know anyone who's ever done 50 days without alcohol. And I was the one who I thought was the one with the Achilles heel. Like, other people aren't doing this either. And then, I went 100 days and I just felt like a badass. I felt like so incredible that I was able to defeat that Achilles heel. And it started to make me think, like, wait a minute, if I could do this, what else could I do? And so I had all these other limiting beliefs in my life. I always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't really think I could ever write a book. I wanted more freedom and impact in my life, but I didn't ever think I could leave a 9-to-5 job. And so all of a sudden, all these other things I didn't think were possible either start coming up. And this confidence spills over to think, hell, why not? Why not couldn't I do those kinds of things? And it also, I think, really gets us in tune with our intuition, because that voice, that little voice, it's always a little voice, tells us in the first place, alcohol might not be serving you anymore. You're made for more than this pattern. You're made for more. And we don't want to listen to that voice. So we shove it away and shove it away. And then finally, as you take a break from alcohol, you're listening to that voice. And your intuition is like, yes, I've been waiting for you. I'm going to give you more messages now. and you start to form a really good relationship with your intuition. And I think that's where more creativity comes from, more clarity comes from. And, a lot of the emotions that we feel on a daily basis, they're not getting numbed anymore from alcohol. And our emotions are teaching us all the time more of what we want, more of what we don't want in our lives. And so I think it just gives women the direction and the clarity to say, you know what? This really stressful job, I'm working 60 hours, 70 hours a week. It's not fulfilling. I really would rather do this. Or maybe I need more boundaries in my life here. Or you know what? That passion I had to always launch this business, I think I can do it. Let's go for it. Or that book I've always wanted to write. And so I know it sounds cheesy, like ditch alcohol, achieve your dreams, but like I have witnessed it so many times. I have a client who ditched alcohol and she had this lifelong dream to live in France, but it was such a pipe dream. It was like, okay, that's like not for me. I have a job, I have a child, I have a marriage, I have family here. I can't just pick up my life and move to France. Well, she went alcohol free. She quit her corporate job. She picked up her life and moved to France.
Wow.
And she's spending a whole year there. She's learned the language. And she's decided to write a memoir about the experience, which is just incredible. So it's like the leap of faith that you take the first time just to decide maybe life could be amazing without alcohol. Maybe I should try it, because your intuition's kind of guiding you there anyway. It's like gives you the faith to continue taking the leaps of faith, right? And, for me, it's just been this night and day difference of my life. I also didn't recognize I drank on the weekend. I couldn't wait for the weekend. Every week was like, when is it Friday? And that's a really common sentiment in our culture, TGIF, like can't wait for the weekend. But I didn't recognize that drinking was literally the highlight of my life.
Right.
And that I was so bored, stressed, and unfulfilled by the week. Right. Obviously, I couldn't wait for the weekend. And so I had to kind of had a tough look at why, and obviously my career, which was fine, but fine is not what I was born for, that I made for more. And that really did give me the confidence to do the work it took to, launch a business, leave my day job, and find a career that gives me so much more meaning and impact and freedom, which are huge, huge values of mine. I'm so grateful for that experience. I can't even imagine where I would be if I never took that first hunch.
Right. Yeah, it's this huge shift like you're talking about. And it's almost kind of this for a lot of people that, they just drink as part of their lives and part of being social. It's kind of a form of self-mastery, like you're talking about. So you're kind of all this mental chatter, you're shutting that down. So now you have more room and more bandwidth in your mind to be creative and to accomplish and achieve. And you're not numbing those emotions anymore. And so now you're kind of, really getting to know yourself on a deeper level. So yeah, I mean, wow.
Absolutely. And I really think that's what's the core of it is like, it's not alcohol is the symbol. Alcohol is like the metaphor we're using here, but ultimately it really is a self-discovery journey. And you learn through this journey, what do I really want in life? What do I really need? Like, how do I take care of myself? How do I really fill my cup? And what are my true desires? Because those are usually tied to our deeper purposes in a way that we're going to make a bigger contribution on this planet too, instead of just the old routine.
Right. And getting stuck in the societal, like you said, like, well, I was working at a good job, but I wasn't incredibly happy. I wasn't incredibly fulfilled. I was looking forward to numbing myself on the weekend. And I feel like a lot of Americans kind of live this way. So, I mean, that's a powerful mindset shift. And just to dive deep into your life and really realize you can live an extraordinary life and you can make these changes. Now, you also work one-on-one with clients to help them, like you're talking about, change your relationship with alcohol for good. What are some key steps, mindset shifts, tools that our listeners can implement in their lives to help them start transforming their relationship with alcohol?
Absolutely. So I think it goes back to those beliefs we have around alcohol, which can often be determined by why you like to drink, and really recognizing that a lot of those are false. So some of them we just disproved today, like the ones around what alcohol chemically or physically does to our body. Doesn't relax us, also doesn't help us sleep. A lot of people use it misguidedly to help them sleep. It's horrible for that. I won't even get into it yet. But then others are really cultural. Others are really this idea that maybe alcohol makes us feel more sophisticated, or alcohol makes us feel refined, glamorous. Maybe it makes us feel like an expert. Maybe we have like a wine cellar. We have this connoisseurship around it. Maybe alcohol makes us feel like we belong when we go out with our friends. Maybe it makes us feel like we fit in. Maybe it makes us feel like we have some sense of comfort or some adventure in our lives. What it's doing is it's ultimately this illusion we have about alcohol. Now, I like to explain it by like alcohol essentially is just a liquid in a glass. It's fermented and it happens to be toxic for humans. That's what alcohol is. And it's not a bad or good thing. It's just a neutral thing. We as a society threw everything else on it, right? This illusion of glamour, this illusion that you have to drink to fit in, all these things. And so really it's a lot of mindset work. The behavior change is important too, but it's not the first necessarily step or the first place to go. Because if we can change what we believe around alcohol and kind of pop the illusion, like I said, we'll slowly lose our desires for it. But doing it during a break from alcohol is also kind of really cool because that's when you can really also pop some beliefs around what you think not drinking will do for your life. So it's common to think that non-drinkers have a problem, right? Who wants to have a problem? Who really wants to wear a sign that says, I have a problem? We think non-drinkers perhaps are boring, religious, pious, not fun, right? We have all these cultural associations with not drinking too. And so again, like when you take a break from alcohol and you start to debunk some of that and you're like, wow, I'm actually having more fun than I've ever had, or I'm laughing more than I've ever had. I mean, it was so interesting, but I used to have this friend in high school and we would just get up to like the funniest things together. We would just do such silly things. And I remember laughing so hard it would hurt with her. And then I started drinking as a 17-year-old and I don't stop until I'm 30. And that laugh that almost hurts, I don't experience it the whole time I'm a drinker. Like, sure, do I laugh a few times at something slightly funny, but that real belly deep laugh, I don't experience it. And it's in like my first month alcohol free that all of a sudden something is so funny and I'm back as a teenager laughing my heart out. Mm-hmm. It was these sensations that I literally hadn't felt, that overwhelming sense of appreciation. I hadn't felt that in years. That overwhelming sense of like tears just coming out of your eyes to be like, I am so lucky in this moment to be alive. That feeling of aliveness I hadn't felt ever really at that extent. And so, there's so many beautiful ways we can change our mindset, both about what it means to drink, what it doesn't mean to drink. And it's that mindset work that's most important as we practice it with a break from alcohol as well.
Right. And like you said before, early in the show, you weren't experiencing that because those sensors, those dopamine sensors were you were not functioning properly and all your hormones are off. I mean, it's interesting. I've always kind of been fascinated by the social construct we built around alcohol. It's so, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. And you mentioned quite a few of them, like the stigmas of not being a drinker and the stigmas around drinking. Yeah. Those are big ones to really kind of look at and get to, work through. And like we mentioned before, another big one, and like I said before, I've experienced this as not being a big drinker. I'll go through periods where I'll have a glass of red wine, and then sometimes I just don't feel like drinking, so I don't want to drink. And I find that in social settings, it's this odd thing that you have to explain why you're not drinking. And it's this socially ingrained thing. And as you mentioned before, too, a lot of times it helps us feel less nervous, or we think it does, or we think it makes us more confident. So now going through this process of being alcohol free, how do we navigate our social life when we choose to do so?
Yeah. And so I love to speak about that confidence piece, kind of, as I mentioned, of practicing that muscle that we've never practiced before. And honestly, keeping an open mind. If you think that you're going to have a horrible time and not have any fun when you don't drink out in public, you'll find confirmation bias all night to try to prove that. Whereas if you really keep an open mind and really start to see it as an experience of more, because nothing is being taken away from you. You get to hang out, you get to go to the party, you get to dance. I love to dance without alcohol. It feels like I'm riding a roller coaster because like it's real and I'm nervous and I feel like, oh, do I look funny? Who cares? I'm really facing those fears and those feelings and that exhilaration, not some kind of numb, drunk state, of me, right? It's exhilarating to dance without alcohol. But a lot of people really prove to themselves that they can have more fun because they're more alive. And so they get to experience that. But then the next morning, they also get to go run the 3 miles they wanted to go run. They're not sleeping in or feeling gross or so it's like you get to have your cake and eat it too, right? And so that's a really incredible experience. But the thing is that it's not just your experience of it. We live in a world, we live in a society, there's other people and their expectations that are placed on us. So oftentimes it's you debunk that you can have fun or that you can be confident, but you'll still face other people who expect you to drink, right? And this is often, a really interesting bag because some people can be a little judgmental about it, ask you questions about it. They could even be a little rude about it. And it's always really telling because I just want to tell people it has literally nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. You have put up a mirror in front of someone else's behavior. And if they themselves are a little insecure or doubtful about their own relationship with alcohol, they are going to respond with such type of, judgment or questions or whatnot. Now, sometimes this isn't always bad. If someone has questions, for example, they might just be trying to fit in a worldview that they have with your worldview. So maybe they have this idea that only problem drinkers quit drinking. So they're like, Christy, wait, I don't get it. Was there a problem? And what they're looking for actually is permission because they themselves wish that they weren't drinking in that moment. In fact, 53% of Americans have on a survey, so I'm sure it's so much more than what the people said on a survey, have said that they wish that they didn't drink or that they drank a lot less. So that's the majority of people. You can say at any setting, the majority of people wish that they didn't drink or drank less. And it's obvious why. The biological effects of alcohol aren't pretty, right? Yeah. So it's like when someone asks questions, even from in a nice way, they literally could be trying to figure out their own permission to maybe embark on this, or they're curious about it and they want to learn more. If someone is being rude, though, it's totally a red flag that they have a hugely complicated relationship with alcohol themselves, and they're not comfortable with the idea of people not drinking around them because it's kind of like a code we've all bought into. And if we were all going to march to our death, well, at least, we're all doing it. But if someone is going to save themselves, it's like, wait a minute, that's an option? No. So it's that kind of mentality. And I think either way, we're shining a light. We're showing people that more is possible because I have to be honest with you. If I went to a party 6 years ago and I saw someone having a great time and dancing and not drinking alcohol, I would have been like, wait a minute, you're allowed to do that? Like, I didn't even think you were allowed to do that. It didn't even compute in my brain, right? And I think those examples create ripple effects. The people, obviously I do this for a career, but just the people in my personal life that have been influenced by me choosing to go alcohol free, even at the very beginning before I talked about it publicly, was incredible, right? Like, and I've heard of so many other people influencing their partners or their friends or, just even random people around them. Because the feelings we all feel of alcohol not quite being the best for us or serving us, those are ubiquitous. And I think, being someone who gives person permission to explore that in their life is often a good thing, even if it feels odd at first. So instead of feeling like the odd one out or like the one who doesn't belong in that moment, I like to reframe it. I think you're the role model. I think you're the inspirer. I think you're the leader. And the leader acts a little different than followers, right? And that's their role. And it's a really beautiful, beautiful role to inhabit. And it can feel really prideful and just the sense of like, yes, I'm doing something that makes a difference. So if you lead from that angle, it can actually feel really good to be in a room full of drinkers because you're the one who's literally, you have no idea who you're going to influence. You have no idea what ripple effect you could create. It's something to be, I think, proud of. And just think about it. If you're like a vegetarian, for example, I use that example quite a lot. You don't go around moaning that you can't eat meat. You don't say like, oh, that rib looks so good, I'm stuck with my salad. You're not embarrassed by it. You're not trying to hide the fact that you're not eating meat by getting, some kind of thing that like, it just isn't like that. People who, whatever we adopt as a food diet, whether it's gluten-free or meat free or dairy free or whatever it is, we have the full autonomy of knowing that we're doing the best for our body and nobody gets to meddle with that and tell us what to do. You know what I mean? And I think that same confidence can really be placed into what we drink. You know, like I am allowed to choose what I drink based on what makes me feel the best in my life. And I'm not going to have anyone give me crap about that.
Oh, I love that reframe. So good. Yeah, it's so true. We're not one of the lemmings jumping off the cliff, following all the other little lemmings. Yeah, it's interesting because I remember going on a date once and the gentleman was very upset that I didn't drink on the date. And I was like, well, I'm not going to pretend to drink to make you happy. But yeah, I mean, it is, and it's a great reframe because it really goes from feeling like, oh, I'm the weird one and the odd one to being, no, I'm the example. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, what would be some healthy coping mechanisms to help us deal with the stress to replace the glass of wine or cocktail after a long day of work or a long work week, for those that are going to shift into being alcohol free?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned before, you know, the replacement is a really good idea. Habit experts share that there's three main components of a habit. We have a cue that kind of initiates that the habit's about to begin, that we have the activity itself, and then we have the reward. And when you just kind of sit there when the cue happens and you just kind of willpower and stuff, the habit change is so hard to make. And the best way to do it is to replace it. So any of these activities will replace it and hopefully give the same reward, which is a spike of mood boosting, you know, feeling. So like I mentioned, any alcohol-free beverage or, you know, mocktail, it's going to be a fast and easy kind of replacement. But going deeper into that, I think, you know, when we feel stressed, our body feels stress on a body physical level, you know, like it's our fight and flight response has been activated. Our sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. And sometimes the most effective things that we can do are also grounded in the body. So I really do enjoy somatic practices for that. Something as simple as breathing. I know it sounds so common sense. And I know it's like, no, that's not going to work. That's not what I need. But like we could go, you know, a week without food. We could go 3 days without water. We can't go 2 minutes without oxygen. We are such shallow breathers. Normally, we're never getting enough. And so just sitting down and doing 5 minutes of a breathwork sequence, you could YouTube something or, you know, find a breathwork class or something like that, or just literally just sit and breathe for a little bit. It changes this, the oxygen changes the state of our brain. And this is what I like to share too about drinking is that it's not necessarily the drink we want, it's the feeling we believe the drink will give us. So if we can recreate the feeling, then we've totally been able to meet the same need. So in this sense, you know, breath work or meditation, or like for me, watching the sunset, going on a walk with your dog, really helps. Journaling, I think, really, really helps because a lot of our stress is also, we feel it in our body, but it's mental because we have mental work as humans these days, right? We have 1,000 to-dos. We have so much kind of buzzing. So like just journaling, you know, like I feel off today. My boss gave me all this work. I feel resentful. You know, I feel like I'm not appreciated at my company, like kind of working through those feelings instead of just like, oh, I have so much work to do and I'm going to have a drink. Maybe we recognize that, hey, you know what? I keep getting more work at work, but I'm not getting a raise. I'm not getting any more team members to support me. Like I need to maybe have a conversation with my boss. Maybe I need to put up a boundary or something. Like if we actually explore the feeling and digest it, we're able to come up with the solution. Whereas if we just numb it right away, the problem will be there every day and you're just numbing it for a little bit. So some of those tools I think can be really effective. And I know they sound common sense. I know that they do, but they work. They really, really do work. I think water therapy is really great. And that's like a fancy word, but just the idea of immersing yourself in water, you know, whether it's a bath, a shower. I really like cold showers. They really help really control anxiety and stress and kind of elicit a different response. And, you know,
those boost your dopamine too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do. And, you know, we evolved from mammals from the sea, right? So like if you think of sea mammals, like a dolphin, for example, or a seal, if they were feeling stressed out, they only can breathe every few minutes or so. I'm not sure, but, you know, they come up for air and then they're in long stretches under the water. And if they were feeling really stressed out and anxiety when they're underwater, they would probably hyperventilate and die. So water has been proven to kind of simulate this calming down of our body so that doesn't happen. We still, as humans, have that response. So just even splashing your face with some water will help calm you down in that moment. So I love these different things. And it's kind of like a toolbox that you form. One idea might be okay, but another idea might really click for you. And so it's okay to experiment and find what really works for you. I think tapping is really great as well, the emotional freedom technique, yoga, all those kinds of modalities. There's so many. So think of it as an experiment and really collecting these new ideas that are going to work for you. And then be self-assured that when you do feel stress, you have an outlet and a process for it instead of just kind of allowing it to build under the kind of suppression that you're putting on it with alcohol.
Right. Thank you for sharing those. Yeah, those are all amazing. And it's such another great mindset shift. And again, just really refocusing on not numbing, like dealing with everything and dealing with life and, expanding as a human and being the best possible version of yourself in every way. And this kind of self-mastery idea. And for those that would like to contact you, how can we do so? And can you also share with us what kind of programs you have available? Because I know you work with one-on-one. I don't know if you have any other courses, other great resources you have. And I see your pretty book in the background. Can you talk about your book as well a bit and let us know what that's all about?
Absolutely. So almost everything we've touched upon today is in my book. It's such a great start. Taking a break from alcohol will change your life, but sometimes just leaning in, something you're curious about, this podcast piqued your interest, just learning a little bit more and exploring new ideas around this topic will really start to make changes in your brain too. So I think a book is the great first step. As Christy mentioned, it's called Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You. You can find it, just type in Euphoric on Amazon or go to www.euphoricbook.com. Essentially, it's a book about how taking a break from alcohol will be amazing for your body, your mind, and your soul. So it'll get you really excited and learn some of these facts we talked about today, and then give you a guide for an 8-week plan. So highly recommend it. And then, taking this further, I love to work in a community of women. I think when women come together and really have a common goal and really believe in the growth that they all deserve in their lives and their best selves, like magic happens. So I have an evergreen program. It's my signature program called Become Euphoric. It's a group coaching program. And we really go deep into those subconscious desires we talked about and really unpack them and clear them away so that we just get freedom and happiness and confidence. And I've always got other stuff going on too. I do one-on-one work. I host retreats for alcohol-free women. This year, we're doing Bali and Puerto Vallarta. Not sure about next year, but somewhere fun, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I host also programs for women who are already alcohol-free. And it's like, there's this questioning like, well, what's the next chapter for me? And there's that confidence and that creativity. Often women want to do something, make a bigger mark on the world, whether they want to launch their own business, form a movement, write a book. And so I have a program that helps women find more purpose and then get started with those steps. And I do business coaching as well for alcohol-free coaches. So I love the whole experience, right? From the very start to the very end of like what's possible in this lifestyle, because I just believe in it so much. And, I look on some of my biggest heroes, Tony Robbins, for example, Gabby Bernstein, Brene Brown, Deepak Chopra. They're all non-drinkers, And so this is a lifestyle, I think, that really allows you to have what you want most in life, the things that are most important to you, not the things you want right now. You know what I mean? Like not that momentary immediate gratification, but really long-term happiness and contentment. And so you can find more information about my programs at euphoricaf.com. You'll find some freebies and also my own podcast there. And if you like to connect on Instagram, I'm at euphoric.af.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you have some incredible programs. And it sounds like you're building this beautiful community of women through it as well. And I will post links below for everybody to check out to all her links and her podcast and her book. Before we wrap it up today, do you have any final words for those that may be on the fence about their decision to cut out the alcohol?
Absolutely. So I think like the decision to cut out alcohol will always seem daunting with the frame of, oh, I have to quit drinking forever, right? I hate the word forever. Like I don't know what I want to do when I'm 92. And the thing is with forever is like when you say that I'm going to do this forever, when can you ever say you're successful? Like you can only say on the day that you're going to die, oh, now I can celebrate my success. Now I really marked myself that I did it, right? So it's really daunting and it just is get pushed away all the time. I'll do that next week. I'll do that next month. I don't want to look at that right now. At the same time, there's this mantra, one day at a time, that I'm also really not that fond of because it really necessitates that every day you have to make a decision. Every day you have to decide.
Right.
I love the idea of a break from alcohol. A break is experimental. It
Mm,
also is a really small amount of time in the scope of your life. And in my book, we have a 60-day break that you can use the guide and the book to really work through. 30 days is amazing, though. I have a program called Dry Boot Camp that's only 22 days. We have our next one in October. We also do it in Dry January. It can really be an experiment in your life to just try it. Because the way I see it, other than a pregnancy or two, most of us start drinking as teenagers and then drink the rest of our lives. We don't even give ourselves the opportunity to see what our natural neurochemistry feels like, to see our normal levels of happiness and drive and health, right? Especially health. We didn't even really get into it too much other than the mental health. Alcohol is really bad on the human body. Like it is toxic in cancers, it's carcinogenic. It actually is bad for the heart, even though we think that one glass a day of wine is good for the heart. That's been completely debunked now. It's really bad for brain health. Everywhere it's just not too good. And we feel it on a daily basis. Like it's something that isn't something that catches up with you later. Like you feel the alcohol the next day, that lethargy, that grossness. And so giving the gift to yourself of trying to see just how you feel, your energy, your vitality, all those things without alcohol is such a gift. But you know what? Even 3 days without alcohol is building a sober muscle. It's building your alcohol-free muscle to get more comfortable without it. And like I said, even if you're not ready to start with a break, I think starting with just mindset stuff. If this podcast interests you, check out the book, check out a podcast episode, just kind of peek into this world, peek into it, because this isn't really about that old-fashioned recovery, we're trying to fix a problem, solve something. This is a exploration journey back to you of like really discovering who you are, what you really want. And it's a wellness journey. It's open to anyone. You don't have to qualify to be here with a list of questions that you took, to demarcate that something's off. It really is just your intuition guiding you, I think, to a place that will make you happier, healthier, and feel more in tune with yourself. And who wouldn't want that? Trust the voice and see what she tells you. Just lean in, learn something new.
love that. Oh, you're full of amazing, great mindset shifts and ideas around this. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Karolina, and sharing your journey as well as all the ideas and tools and mindset shifts around choosing to be alcohol free. And thank you so much too. I'm a huge fan of you. Thank you for being such a great leader and example in this area as well. You're definitely leading by example and doing the full circle. You went through it yourself and now you're helping others as well, which is such a beautiful thing. And you're helping others really live the highest and best versions of themselves. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was such an honor to be here. And thank you for bringing this topic to your audience. It's a controversial, taboo one, and we have to get vulnerable talking about it. And it's not always comfortable, but it's so, it's all at the top of our mind. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room and get some clarity about it.
Beautiful. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body, the better you're able to stay healthy and prevent disease. And a reminder, I am not your doctor, so please don't take this as medical advice. If you have specific questions about your healthcare, feel free to reach out to your practitioner. And if you like this video, please like it and share it with others. This information could really help someone you may know. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the little bell to be sure you don't miss out on our future shows. And I will see you all next Wednesday on the next episode of Discovering True Health.